lived in this apartment building for nearly 3 years now. It isn't much, just a tired block of apartments where the walls are thin and the heating barely works. But it's cheap and it's quiet most of the time. I keep to myself. I go to work, I come home, and I try not to get too involved with the lives of the people around me. You learn quickly that in a place like this, everyone has their secrets. My next door neighbor is Kate. She's been here longer than me. I don't know her well. Nobody really does. But everyone in the building whispers about her. She struggles for money, she lives alone, and strange men visit her at all hours of the night. People say things about her, ugly things, but I've never asked questions. It isn't my business. For the most part, she's quiet. Sometimes I'll hear her coming up the stairs, or catch a glimpse of her outside having a smoke. Thin, pale, tired looking. Her eyes always down at the floor, like a world was too heavy for her to look anyone in the eye. I always felt a bit sorry for her, but lately, something's been different. She's changed. It started small. One evening, I passed her in the hallway. She smiled at me, not a friendly smile. It was stretched, sharp, like her mouth was trying to remember what smiling was supposed to look like. And her eyes. They didn't look tired anymore. They looked alive, almost too alive, like something burning behind them. That night, I couldn't sleep. Through the thin walls, I heard voices. Not just hers, but several. Low, murmuring, repeating words I couldn't make out. It went on for hours. When I finally drifted off, I dreamed of fire, of shadows moving in circles, of faces staring at me from the dark. I told myself it was nothing, just neighbors, just noise. But each night after that, the sounds grew louder. The voices multiplied. And sometimes when I pressed my ear to the wall, I swore I could hear her voice leading them, chanting, commanding. Kate isn't the same anymore, and I don't think she lives alone. I told myself I wouldn't get involved. I told myself I'd just ignore it, keep my head down, and mind my own business. But Kate made that impossible. A few nights after the chanting started, I was coming home late from work. The hallway was dark, only one flickering bulb overhead. Kate was standing by her door, waiting, not moving, just standing there, staring at me. I tried to smile, tried to walk past, but she spoke. Her voice was quiet, almost like a whisper. "You shouldn't stay here," she said. And before I could answer, she unlocked her door and slipped inside. That night, I barely slept, because through the wall, I didn't just hear voices. I heard laughter. Dozens of voices laughing, overlapping, getting louder and louder until it felt like they were in my own apartment. When I banged on the wall, everything stopped. Dead silence. The next morning, I noticed something scratched into my door. 3 lines, just 3, carved deep into the wood. I could feel them under my fingertips, raw, fresh. I looked around the hallway, but nobody was there. Kate started showing up more often after that, at the mailboxes, in the stairwell, always with that same twisted smile. And she wasn't alone anymore. Strange people, faces I'd never seen in the building before, started lingering around her. They never spoke, they never looked at me directly, but I could feel their eyes following me. One evening, I caught her outside by the dumpsters. She was crouched down, muttering to herself, tracing shapes into the dirt with her finger. Circles, triangles. I called her name, and she froze. Then she looked up at me, her face pale, her lips cracked and bleeding. "Almost ready," she said. And then she laughed, low, guttural, like the sound didn't belong to her at all. I don't know what's happening to her. I don't know what's happening to me. But every day it feels like the walls are closing in. Like this building isn't just falling apart, it's alive. And Kate isn't my neighbor anymore. She's something else, something waiting. The scratches came first. Every morning when I left for work, there were new marks on my door. At first, just 3 lines, then 5, then entire patterns, carved deep into the wood like claws had dragged through it. I reported it to the landlord. He shrugged, said kids must be messing around. But no kid could carve symbols like these. Jagged, looping spirals within spirals. The kind of shapes that made my head throb just to look at them. And always, Kate was nearby. Sometimes standing in the hallway with that smile. Sometimes watching from her window as I walked to my car. Her eyes never left me. Not once. The voices grew bolder too. They didn't hide in the walls anymore. Now they whispered in the vents, in the ceiling, in the pipes. No matter where I went in the apartment, I could hear them. Soft at first, then louder, overlapping, too many voices to count. And sometimes, I could hear my own name, chanted, repeated, over and over until I had to cover my ears and press my face into the pillow just to drown them out. The smell came next. Rot, thick, clinging, seeping under my door and filling my apartment. I followed it one night, out into the hall. And there, smeared across the wall, was a dark, sticky stain. It ran in trails, leading all the way to Kate's door. And carved above her door frame was a new symbol, larger than the rest, still wet, as if whatever made it hadn't dried. I couldn't take it anymore. I pounded on her door, shouting her name. For a long time, there was nothing. Then the lock clicked. The door creaked open. The apartment was dark, lit only by candles placed in a perfect circle on the floor. The air was hot, heavy, thick with the smell of burning herbs and something else I didn't want to recognize. And in the center, Kate knelt on the floor. Her hair hung wild around her face. Her hands were covered in black ash, her fingers shaking as she traced shapes onto the wood. She looked up at me. Her eyes. They weren't her eyes anymore. They were black, glossy, reflecting the candlelight like the eyes of an animal. "Do you hear them too?" she asked. Her voice was sharp, broken, layered with something underneath. Something not human. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over myself. She laughed, a jagged, guttural sound that echoed long after the door slammed shut again. Since that night, I haven't slept. The voices won't stop. The symbols keep spreading. And sometimes, when I walk through the hallway, I see them. Not just Kate, others. Figures standing at the far end of the corridor, hoods pulled low, faces hidden, silent, motionless, watching me. Every night they're closer, and every night the chanting grows louder, like they're waiting for something, like they're waiting for me. I tried to convince myself I was imagining it. The scratches, the whispers, even Kate's eyes. But last night proved it's all real. It started with the power going out. Every light in my apartment died at once, leaving me in total darkness. At first, I thought it was just the building again, The wiring's ancient and blackouts happen, but when I looked out the window, the entire street was lit, everywhere except here. Then I heard it, the chanting, not muffled through walls this time, not distant. It was in the hallway. Dozens of voices, rising and falling together, shaking the air like a pulse. I crept to the door and pressed my eye to the peephole. The hallway was filled. Figures in hooded robes lined both sides, shoulder to shoulder, their faces hidden in the shadows. Candles flickered in their hands, dripping wax onto the carpet, and at the center, standing tall, was Kate. Her hood was down. Her hair hung wild and greasy, her skin gray and stretched thin, but it was her smile that froze me. Wide, broken, too many teeth. Her eyes locked onto the peephole like she knew I was there, and she raised her hand. The chanting stopped. Total silence. Then, in one voice, they spoke. Not English. Not any language I've ever heard. The sound rattled in my chest, made my ears ring, like the words themselves were alive. I stumbled back from the door, and that's when the knocking started. Slow, heavy, 3 knocks, always 3, over and over, in perfect rhythm with the chanting that had started again. I called the police. No answer. I tried to phone a friend. The call wouldn't connect. Every screen in my apartment lit up with static. Every bulb flickered back on, glowing red instead of white. The knocking grew faster, louder. The door shook on its hinges. And then I heard it. Kate's voice, cutting through the chaos. "You can't hide anymore," she said. "We're inside already." I don't know how long I sat there, frozen, clutching the phone that didn't work. But when I finally found the courage to look again through the peephole, the hallway was empty. No candles, no hooded figures, no Kate. Just silence. And carved into the wood of my door, still fresh, still bleeding, was my name. I thought I'd imagined it all, that the chanting, the symbols, the whispers were just in my head. But last night, they came inside. It started with the smell again. Rot, thick and choking, filling every corner of my apartment until I could taste it on my tongue. I gagged, covered my nose, but it was useless. The smell wasn't coming in. It was already here. Then I heard the scrape of wood. Slow, deliberate. Something carving into my door from the other side. I grabbed a kitchen knife, trembling, my hands slick with sweat. When the scraping stopped, I dared to look. Carved deep into the wood, in jagged, dripping letters, was one word. Mine. The lock clicked. The door swung open. Kate stood in the doorway, but she wasn't Kate anymore. Her skin sagged, gray and stretched, her mouth torn wider than it should have been. Her eyes were pits, bottomless, leaking streams of black that dripped down her face. And behind her, the cult poured in. Dozens of them, hooded, faceless, chanting so loud the walls shook. I swung the knife. It cut nothing. Hands grabbed me from every direction. Pale, clawed, cold as ice. They dragged me into the hallway, into their circle. Candles blazed, dripping wax onto the carpet that smoked like flesh. The walls were covered in symbols, fresh and bleeding, pulsing like veins alive beneath the paint. And in the center of it all, they threw me down onto the floor. Kate knelt over me, her fingers, sharp as bone, pressed against my chest. She whispered words that burned into my skin, words I didn't understand, but felt searing through me like fire. And when I looked down, I saw black lines crawling under my flesh, moving, writhing, twisting up my arms and neck. I screamed, but the chanting drowned it out. Their voices rose, shaking the ceiling, rattling the glass, until blood trickled down from the light fixtures like rain. Kate leaned close, her teeth jagged, her breath rancid. "This is how it ends," she whispered. "You don't die tonight. You become one of us." The last thing I remember is the feeling of them tearing me open. Not flesh, not bone, but deeper, pulling something out of me, dragging it into the circle. My vision went black, and when I opened my eyes, I was standing among them, hood drawn over my head, candle in my hand, chanting with the rest. I don't know how long it's been since then. All I know is that I'm not myself anymore. And tonight, I'll be waiting in the hallway, waiting for the next neighbor to come home.